Hello everyone, PallyTime here, and welcome back to Baldur's Gate 3. It is no secret that Tavern Brawler Monks are one of the strongest characters in the entire game. We just did a 50-episode playthrough with Calarco Lark, the world's strongest, smartest, and handsomest Githyanki. He played as a monk throughout the whole game and demolished everything in his path. And in today's video, I hope to show you how to get it started. By the time you get to Act 3 as a monk, the amount of damage you could do is absolutely outrageous. Not only are you taking down enemies in a single blow in some cases, you're also crowd controlling them, knocking them down to the ground, and giving your allies advantage on each of their attacks as well. The goal of today's build is going to show you how to get this off the ground, with a focus on Act 1 and 2 to get your foundation of your character ready to go. If you guys like this video and enough of you hit that thumbs up button, we'll make a part 2 showing how to put all of this together inside of Act 3 so your character can annihilate everyone in their path, exactly like Clark does. I'm going to take you all the way from character creation to walking basically up to the gates of Baldur's Gate. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you do, make sure you hit that thumbs up button or you won't see part 2! While leveling up your monk may be straightforward, gearing it can be a little difficult. For instance, we have unarmored defense as one of our class features. We don't really want to wear armor. We're going to focus mostly on clothing. And because my monk is all about punching things really, really hard, a lot of the normal rings and necklaces that would increase weapon damage do not apply to our attacks because we're making unarmed attacks. Something to keep in mind. At level 1, we are going to gain Flurry of Blows. This is phenomenal. It allows us to expend a resource known as Ki to basically empower a flurry of attacks against an enemy. We're going to be using this a lot throughout our playthrough, and it can be incredibly strong, especially after level 4 when we get Tavern Brawler. Speaking of Tavern Brawler, if our stats look a little weird, that is likely why. We have 8 strength, basically none. Even though we're going to be taking Tavern Brawler and scaling our damage with our strength modifier, we basically start with no strength. The reason for that is we're going to be using elixirs throughout the entire game to supplement our strength, and I'm going to be explaining exactly how to do that very soon. From there, we want 16 dexterity. We will not be improving this throughout the game as far as I can remember. Our constitution score is going to be 15. That's an odd number, but Tavern Brawler will help us make that an even number. Intelligence is dumped, charisma is dumped, but wisdom is sitting at 17. With any luck, we'll be able to get the Hag Scalp to bring that up to 18. Then one ability improvement is going to bring that up to an even 20. Wisdom is a pretty good stat for monks in the first place, but there's also a pair of boots leading into the late game that allow you to add your wisdom modifier onto your punching damage. So we want our wisdom very, very high. Now at level 2, we gain new things for us to spend our key points on, whether it be patient defense or a bonus action dash or disengage. Normally these would be main actions, but because of that power inside of us, that key power, we can disengage or sprint only using a bonus action. At level 3, we get to pick our subclass, and we are going to go with the Way of the Open Hand. This modifies our Flurry of Blows to be able to do additional things. For instance, toppling our enemy. 9 times out of 10, this is what you will be doing. If you knock an enemy down flat on their back, that's going to give the rest of your attacks advantage against that target. You want to open with toppling and then use your punches after. I don't even believe you can do that in the tabletop version of the game. Take advantage of that. This is where we also gain the ability to deflect missiles back at would-be attackers as well, turning arrows from your enemies into damage for you. Now, level 4, this is where things get really fun. For our feat, we are taking Tavern Brawler. When you make an unarmed attack, use an improvised weapon or throw something, your strength modifier is added twice to the damage of attack rolls. This is also going to give us a attribute point that we can spend, and we want to put that into Constitution. Basically, odd number is bad, even number's good. Even number Constitution, very good. From this point on, we would want to be drinking elixirs of Hill Giant Strength and I'm going to show you exactly where to find those and farm those easily in this video. I ended up getting 20 of these in Act 1, and it lasted me the rest of the game. I'll show you how to do that too. So instead of your strength being 8, it's really 21 from this point forward. At level 5, we unlock the Stunning Strike in melee. You can use your key points to try to incapacitate your target. You can either use a weapon or an unarmed strike for this. This is where we are also going to gain our extra attack. Now this is huge. Being able to punch more simply means our enemies die faster. You could swap off of Monk right now if you wanted to, but I prefer to take mine to level 6. The reason for that is the Way of the Open Hand gets a bunch of these subclass features that adds more damage onto each of our punches. We also gain Wholeness of Body, which you can basically use as a DPS cooldown in mid-fight, which also heals you at the same time. It's kind of ridiculous how good this is. But at level 6 for Monk, I would stop right there, at least for a little bit. By the time you reach Act 3, I was level 9, so I'm going to show you guys what it takes to get up to the gates of Baldur's Gate. From level 6 Monk, I would then immediately start to take points in Rogue. This first level of Rogue isn't too impressive. In fact, I don't ever remember using my sneak attack at all. And the next level of Rogue kind of just gives you the same options you had before, but don't get me wrong, this is an improvement. You can dash and disengage in combat without using your full action. This is just a bonus action. You can also hide in combat now. I looked at this as Kalark no longer needing key points to achieve these things. We could save our key points for actually doing Flurry of Blows and knocking our targets down, where this is just a nice supplement for our movement from this point on. Again, this isn't why you take Rogue. Wait just a second, take one more level. Now this is what we're talking about. As a 6 Monk, 3 Rogue, we get to pick our Rogue subclass. We're gonna go with Thief. Thief allows you to use an additional bonus action every single turn of combat, which means we can use our Flurry of Blows multiple times per turn, literally one-shotting a lot of enemies within a blink of an eye, with just a flurry of punches moving past them. This is so insanely strong. This is what brings this combination of classes together. Could not recommend it more. By the way, after this point, I would just go back to Monk and start leveling that. I know I brought this up a few times throughout our playthrough, but I meticulously planned Kalark's run. Everything from storylines I wanted to experience down to each and every piece of gear I wanted to find. So now I'm going to bring you through Act 1 and 2 and show you what I truly believe is the best possible setup for a Monk. If you guys want to change anything, let me know down in the comments. I'm always looking to learn and improve, so if you think I didn't get something right, please let me know. But without any further ado, this is all of the best Monk gear in the early game. I hope you're able to use it well. Our first stop for loot inside of Act 1 is going to be at the Blighted Village. Now, this is not the first place I went to. I did fully clear out the Nautiloid that crashed down, the ruins on the eastern side of the Rocky Cliff area, and then made my way over to the Druid Grove and saw the conflict that happened there. By doing just those quick activities, we got up to level 3, and the fun really begins at level 4 for this build. So we want to get a lot of gear very quickly so we can start to pop off as early as possible. Here in the Blighted Village, we are going to go to the north across the road from the ancient Sigil Circle. Inside of this moss-covered chest is going to be the helmet that we are using for the early game. You'll be using this all the way up until the start of Act 3. There it is. The Haste Helmet went to the other side of the cart. Because this chest isn't trapped, the contents of the inside of the chest won't be damaged if you break it open. That's why I was so confused when I didn't see it initially. This is going to give us momentum at the start of combat, which is going to give us more movement speed and allow us to reach our enemies even easier. The next item is found inside of the building behind the ancient sigil. There is a den of necromancy located just underneath this wooden hatch. Once you get downstairs, look to the north, and along this wall, there will be some boxes stacked up. hiding a lever that if you reveal and pull will open up this bookshelf, revealing another doorway you can walk through. Now, this area can come with a combat challenge. You can approach a mirror on the far side of the room here, and if you answer its questions correctly, it will allow you to pass through. If you don't, things get a bit more complicated. You might be able to smash your way in, though, if you get creative. Once you get past the mirror, there is a gilded chest over on this side of the room, and inside of that chest is the Bracers of Defense. You get a +2 bonus to armor class as long as you're not wearing armor or holding a shield. Of course, as a monk, we're not going to be doing that. And at level 3, we already have 18 AC. We are hard to hit. From there, I'm going to make my way over to the main goblin encampment. Now, if you're following the druid questline, and you should be for this playthrough to get the most effective gear, you don't want to wipe these guys out just yet. You are going to need to talk to a few people at the Druid Grove before the leaders of the goblins die. That's one mistake that I made in our YouTube run. However, if you want an early weapon, you can go up to Roa Moonglow here in the main room with Priestess Gut. She sells the gold Wyrmling staff that will add some pretty good fire damage rolls onto your attack. The downside is this is 800 gold. I stole it from her. She has no idea where it went, and I'm wielding it now. I'd really like to stress with this staff that it is a very temporary damage increase. That's another reason I would recommend not buying it from her. Once we hit level 4, we're going to unlock Tavern Brawler and really start to go crazy with the amount of damage that we can deal just with our hands. But until we get there, this staff does help out quite a lot. Now from there, I would actually make my way directly into Priestess Gut's room. Even if I'm not planning on working with her, it would be very easy to get to the Underdark from there. Of course, I didn't pass the roll when I'm recording, saying how easy it is. The main reason I would recommend going to the Underdark early is to make your way into the Myconid colony at about the same time you're hitting level 4. This is when you can get Tavern Brawler on your monk and become an absolute monster in combat. But for the most part, if you want to fuel that super efficiently, you're going to want to respec so you have as little strength as possible, and then you supplement your strength with these elixirs of Hill Giant Strength. This merchant over on the western side of the Myconid colony is a reliable vendor for these very elixirs that we are looking to get. As you can see, I could pick up one of these for 78 gold, and I can even pick up a Hill Giant Finger to craft this elixir myself in the future for just 23 gold. I'm investing 100 gold right now to grab this elixir, but this is the trick. This is how you make it even more efficient. Now that I've purchased that, I'm not going to use that for today. What I'm going to do is go back to camp. Now that we're back in camp, if I end the day by resting, her inventory is going to refresh. But that would be an absolutely monstrous waste of camp supplies. So I'm not going to use any. We're just going to do a partial rest. Time will pass. I may get a cutscene in here. I'll skip it. And as we open up her inventory for the next day, we see another elixir of Hill Giant Strength waiting on us to be purchased. Once again, that's just 78 gold. We throw that down. We would then go to sleep again and repeat until we feel like we have enough of these elixirs to last us quite a while. So as far as how many of these you actually need, at level 4 for the YouTube run for Clark O'Lark, I bought 20 of these right at this point, right at level 4, because I wanted to make sure I had a stash to reach Baldur's Gate. Turns out that was more than enough to complete the entire game. Now, if your party is very dependent on spell slots, and you find yourself resting all the time, maybe you want to buy a few more. But for my party, it was no problem at all to get through the rest of the game with just a stack of 20 to fund my strength for the rest of the campaign. You're also going to find more of these as you go, and there's also elixirs of Cloud Giant Strength later on that increase your strength even more. But these Hill Giant elixirs are so good, and you want to make sure you have a stash that will last you a very, healthy amount of time. We are back at the Druid Grove now because there is a lot of business that we need to take care of here before we disturb the goblins in any way. All of the goblins are still standing inside of their hideout. The first person we want to talk to is this wizard, Roland, right here, who's having a heated discussion with some other tieflings. Basically, all you have to do while you're talking to him is encourage him that he can do magic and he can protect people.
Our lives, our futures, on people who are as good as dead. We must leave for Baldur's Gate at once.
So I'm going to try to encourage them to stay to help defend the grove. A single blade could make the difference. And I'm going to use Bardic Inspiration because this is an important role. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's good. Basically, as long as you convince Roland that he can make a difference, you're going to set yourself up to get a very good pair of boots in Act 2. I didn't do this in the YouTube run, and I really regretted it.
Thank you. It's the right thing to do, and you know it.
Yep. Next, we're going to want to help out the Tiefling children inside of the Druid Grove, specifically talking to Mattis first. This little scrap has a ring that somehow always ends up back in his hands, even after he sells it to you. If you strike up a conversation with them, you can eventually learn about their hideout, which is just underneath these rocks right here with a concealed hatch. But you're basically going to have to do 2 quests inside of the city to help out these tiefling kids. The first one you can do really easily. The second one's going to take a bit more time. For the first one, we are going to travel to the east inside of the main Druid Sanctuary. I didn't know about this place for my first couple of playthroughs, but there is a small lad over here that is unfortunately being driven into the water by a siren's call. A tale as old as time. As long as you protect him from the harpies trying to lead him into the water and he makes it back to the town okay, that's step 1 of this quest done. Good luck with your saves, friends. Don't drown. So do you guys remember the tiefling girl Arabella? She got put on trial because she was trying to steal the idol of Sylvanas away from the druids.
She's just a what?
And, you know, they have this debate on whether or not they should kill this child as you first show up. Turns out, in order to get one of the best rings for our setups, we're going to have to complete her task. She needs the idol of Sylvanas, even if it is stealing to acquire it. That obviously means that Arabella needs to survive that trial, so don't let her get executed. I think how you're supposed to do this quest is by then going and rescuing Halsin from the goblins. Then you get back to the Druid Grove and convince them that they no longer need to perform the rite of Sylvanas. Then you could steal the idol and it's no problem and no one gets mad. That's not the way I did it. Yeah, what I ended up doing was way more complicated. You see, I gathered every explosive barrel that I could find. I cast Minor Illusion over here on the western side of the Druid Grove, and then began taking the elevator up. About halfway up, we enter turn-based mode, and I fire off a fire bolt at one of the nearby barrels. Basically, everyone that could possibly be a witness to the crime of stealing the idol of Sylvanas is all here in one spot. If you don't let them witness the crime, then how could there be a crime in the first place? Bro, I did this like 2 months ago in the YouTube run, and it's still just as fun the second time. Yeah, basically, no one's here to be mad. Normally, if you steal this and it doesn't go well, it starts a war between the druids and the tieflings. Yep, we're good. We're good to go. Now we take that idol of Sylvanas and we go to that concealed hatch that we spotted earlier. If we go downstairs and talk to Mole, we can turn in the idol, and as a reward,
Thanks.
we receive the Ring of Protection, giving the wearer a +1 AC and a +1 to all saving throws. That brings our AC up to 19 with no other external buffs. Meanwhile, in the extremely deep recesses of the Underdark, there is a monk amulet that we are going to pick up. There's actually very few amulets in the game that seem like they're even designed with monks in mind, so this one feels extra special. We are near the Ancient Forge, Ancient Sigil teleport. We're looking on the south by southwestern side of this arena. There is a combat encounter that normally happens here. Now, how I think you're supposed to find this amulet is by descending down to the actual forge and poking around and then exploring the side paths. What's a lot easier is just a slow fall from right here, use the tactical camera, and jump down to this platform, especially if you're drinking your elixirs of Hill Giant Strength. You have more than enough oomph in your legs to get down here. There is a chest resting on top of this pedestal that does have a pretty big DC on its lock, so make sure you're ready to pick it. But inside, we will find the Sentient Amulet. This is going to give us a key restoration that we can use to get back our key points and keep us pumping damage in fights. There are some other checks when you put this amulet on, because it is sentient. It has a peculiar sense of humor, but it is definitely worth coming all the way out here to find it. If you don't want to walk all the way back around, just teleport back up to the top. It's like nothing happened. We're good to go. Next, we're traveling back to the overworld and making our way towards the mountain pass. This is where the Githyanki are setting up shop with their red dragon, watching everything that passes on the road here. I've heard if you want to skip this fight and use an invisibility potion, that you can walk right on past these guys and then click on this archway to go into the next area. This is where the Rosimorn Monastery is. And even though you're venturing into a new biome, a new area, supposedly it doesn't mess up anything here in Act 1. So if you want to skip this fight, you might be able to. I've never tested it, but I just wanted to let you know that was an option. We are at level 5 at this point, and we're feeling pretty good. Let's see how hard we hit in combat. This is considered by a lot of people to be one of the hardest fights in Act 1. These Githyanki, especially the melee ones, are pretty formidable combatants. They all carry this passive that allows them to parry the first hit that would normally strike them. Now, that's not really an issue for a monk like us. I'll just do a little bit of damage with Lae'zel. Even though they have the parry, we could still do something like a toppling attack. Because of our flurry of blows, the first hit may not deal a lot of damage, but the second one is extremely likely to connect. Then all we have to do is start punching our enemy. And as you can see, in one turn, we almost finished off one of the most difficult enemies you can find here. That's also a higher level than my party right now as well. If we get in range of one of these archers, they will very likely not be able to last a single turn with the amount of damage that we are doing right now. Toppling attack knocks them to the ground, gives us advantage on our follow-up swings. And it's like just taking candy from a baby. Oh, beautiful. Once you move through the archway and reach the new region, there is a vendor very close to the border that has some phenomenal gear pickups for our character. This is Lady Esther, and she is right here, very, very close, just northeast of the waypoint. She wants you to break into the creche and steal a Githyanki egg, so obviously I'm not going to be doing that. Not as Lark, the world's strongest Githyanki. But what I will do is buy the Graceful cloth from this vendor. The Graceful cloth is not a piece of armor. It is in fact rare clothing, so we don't have to worry about it messing up any of our monk bonuses. On top of that, it's going to be increasing our dexterity by 2, which will be increasing our AC even more. For the hefty cost of 2,000 gold, you get your AC up to a nice even 20 before Act 2. It is worth mentioning that she sells a pair of gloves here as well that cause your unarmed attacks to deal an additional 1d4 fire damage. I did use this in the YouTube run, and this is totally worth picking up if you want to forego a bit of your AC to get more damage. Ultimately, that's up to you. I think both of these are really good choices. Just be careful with this fire around anything flammable. You might take a lot of damage. Now, I would recommend doing one more thing before you leave Act 1, and that would be to visit the hag in the southern swamp. I've brought this up in a few different videos already, but if you don't know exactly how this works, basically during the fight at the bottom of the hag's lair, if you get the hag very low on health and then allow her to have a turn in combat, I literally stopped attacking to make sure she got another turn in combat, she'll try to strike a deal with you.
Wait! Wait just a tick! Killing me is a waste of time. I'll find a way to return. Always have, always will. But it's unpleasant. So how about we be civilized about this, I have something you want.
If you accept her deal, she will give you 1 attribute point of your choosing by ripping off a piece of her scalp and throwing it on the ground. For this specific run, we want to take the Wisdom attribute point to better bolster our attack in Act 3. This will bring our Wisdom up from an odd number 17 to an even 18, and then for a later feat later in the game, we would want to take an ability score improvement and add 2 more points to Wisdom, bringing it up to 20. Our party has made their way into Act 2, and we're on the home stretch now. There's really not a lot of equipment we need here inside of Act 2. First thing you're going to want to do is make your way over to the last light, and hopefully you get invited inside with open arms. We're going to stop by Quartermaster Tally here on the immediate left. Quartermaster Tally sells the Cloak of Protection, which would give our monk 1 more AC and 1 more bonus to their saving throw. Now, this is the part that I messed up on the YouTube run. Remember when I said you want to make sure you talk to Roland inside of the Druid Grove? How I've been recording this series is going back through all of my old saves. So unfortunately, there's no Roland inside of the inn here for me, because Roland didn't make it. That also means Mattis didn't make it, who would normally be a vendor right here for us. He does sell the Evasive shoes, though, so if you followed my guide correctly, you will be able to buy these from a vendor standing right here. If we put these 2 new pieces of gear on, that brings our monk's AC up to 23 at level 7. That is so good. That is so good. Our party has made their way over to Moonrise Towers. This is the location of the final item for our video today, and it's widely considered to be the best damage ring in the entire game for any of your characters that are actually attacking. Inside this room, over on the left side, is Araj, a vendor who
I'd like to offer my
wants a little bit of your
if you're
blood
willing.
if you want to give that to her. I personally don't. She sells the Risky Ring. You gain advantage on attack rolls and receive disadvantage on saving throws. So this does mean that you do have disadvantage on being crowd controlled in a lot of instances. However, the upside of the advantage is normally way more than worth it. If you don't want to use this particular ring for whatever reason, there is a ring that I used for the entire game just because I liked the added bonus to the movement speed. You get this inside of the Goblin encampment from one of the guys that's sitting right next to the teleporter at the old Selune temple. However, this is what I believe to be the most optimized monk setup prior to Act 3. And this is where you get all of that equipment, how you get your stats to look exactly like mine, and how you could be rolling around with 23 AC like it's absolutely no big deal. Now, as I'm sure you could tell, this video took a ton of time to put together. So if you made it all the way to the end and you found this helpful, I do really encourage you to hit that thumbs up button. Every single like we get on videos like this helps us out a ton with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if this video does well, I'll give you guys a part 2 showing what I believe is the best setup for Act 3 with a monk build just like this. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you again very soon.